Hey, good evening. This is Matt Cron.
Evening, Matt. Joe Baranko.
Hey, good evening. How are you?
Yeah.
You guys hear me? It's Joe.
Yes.
I can hear you.
You?
Is everybody ready?
Yep.
Okay, I'd like to call the Freeland Borough work session to order. We could all say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States
of America.
to the republic that
Which it
stands
stands,
one
one
nation
nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible.
liberty, and justice for all.
Roll call, Leanne.
Lynn Flacco,
Here.
Joe Marmello,
Here,
Matt Crone,
Present.
Joe Polko,
Here.
Jen Farley, Shane Valiant, Bill DeFrancisco.
Okay. Does anyone have any citizens petitions at this time?
Lynn, just, I see you have the FMA loan guarantee on the agenda under solicitor. Just want to make sure we get that taken care of.
Sure.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you, Dave. Anything else? All right, we'll move on to engineer. Do we have Dominic with us? Okay, if not, we do have a Luzerne County Community Development Block Grant drawdown that we'll need to approve next Thursday. It is the first one that will be issued for the sidewalk project on Front Street. It is for the beginning of the invoices for the engineering. There were 3 of them from December, January, and March. And the total of the drawdown will be $27,400. So we'll need an approval on that for the meeting. If not, we can move on to the solicitor.
Okay.
Just one question, Lynn. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
When I actually had emailed about the block grant, I was talking about the extra one.
Correct. Those funds have not been released yet, or even divvied up as far as amounts or anything as of last I heard, which was last week.
Okay. And, hopefully we're going to get started on the project. It is May now, and that was the date that we said. So, one of us will have to reach out to Dominic this week and make sure that he can answer those questions.
Yeah, I actually
In real
did
time,
speak
that's
to him
good.
about that yesterday and told
Okay.
him, I believe that we're just waiting on the HOP to be released, which I believe everything's in order for that. So we should be good to go.
Thanks.
Okay, solicitor?
Okay, the FMA loan guarantee was prepared as far as ordinance, as far as the guarantee agreement, and advertising by our bond counsel, Jens Demgaard. I see that the ad did run, so this will be on the agenda for approval at next week's meeting. And I do believe Jens will be participating and joining us in that meeting for any questions that council may have or any questions that the public may have on that guarantee. And essentially, the authority is refining and taking out an existing debt, the way it appears to me, and doing some capital improvements. So that's that issue. I see council wants to extend the emergency declaration until June 25th, so I'll have a clean version of the resolution ready for next week.
Very good.
Torner Properties, the liens, we prepared 8 liens for stormwater and garbage delinquencies on 4 of the properties. They're ready to go, and I did send Leanne the total for the filing fee and processing fees. So we're ready to move on that.
Leanne, can you get those checks ready?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I did see an line item, backflow prevention ordinance. Not aware of the issues or concerns for council on that.
Yeah, so I could address that one. This is Matt Crone. The rest of council saw a sample ordinance related to it. And I'm sure we would have to do some advertising and things like that. So I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention for tonight. That's why it's on there tonight. We wouldn't try to pass it next week, but it will probably be something that we'll explore for June.
Very good. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the committee reports under Budget, Finance, and Administration. Matt, you want to go with the credit card reader?
Yeah, I could talk about that. So, obviously we can't take payments in person right now while we're under the state of emergency. The building's been closed down. We certainly don't want folks dropping cash in the mail or in a drop box. So what we did is we reached out. The first place we reached out to was a community bank, our local bank, and they don't have an online option available at all. They strictly, we could do a credit card reader, but they don't have an online option, which doesn't necessarily preclude us from using them. The next one that we reached out to was eGov Solutions, which is actually the company that the municipal authority uses. And we were able to connect with them. They actually have a partnership locally with First National Bank. So the borough would be required to establish an account with First National Bank, or several accounts, depending on how it's configured. If we have one account for garbage payments and a different account for stormwater, et cetera. What they offer is they, again, have the ability to swipe the card in the office, but the add-on with them is that it's one button on a website, and it takes you to a payment page. Now, the municipal authority only accepts credit cards, keep me honest, Dave, and not electronic checks. But there's an option available for you to put in a routing number and a check number and do it that way as well. And then just to be extra sure, reached out to one more company called MuniciPay. They're in New England somewhere, I think Rhode Island.
Yes.
And it's a very similar solution to what was offered through the community or through the First National Bank program. The layouts of the screens are very similar, and Whitehaven recently went with MuniciPay. They're in the process of implementing it, and they hope to be taking payments in June. So we had demos with the company. All of council was invited to the demos. We have some reading materials from them, There's either way, there's no cost to the borough except for purchasing a credit card swipe machine. And there's a little difference there. First National, it's a swipe. Through eGov Solutions, theirs also actually has a chip reader or a swipe available. However, you can swipe chip cards, and actually what they recommend is that you type it in. But either way, there's really no difference, and the fees are all in the ballpark. So I'll have the details broken down a little bit better for council for next week for the voting session. But this is definitely something that I think we should look into. The fee would be a few dollars. It's $1.50 if you use a check, for instance, and then it's either $2.50 or 2.95%, whichever is higher. So we figured out for our $43 quarterly stormwater bills, it would be a $2.50 fee to the person who's paying it. And for the garbage bills, because they're a little higher, they're $97.50. That would be about $2.89, $2.90 fee. We would still take checks. We would still take money orders. This is just an additional option, and it's not abnormal for there to be fees. So does anybody have any questions, or are you just going to keep a lookout for the reading materials to come across in advance of next week's meeting? Okay, I'll take silence as golden.
Yeah.
No questions.
Property tax collection. The latest information that I received from Leanne from the tax collector is there's a $17,000 deposit. So that means people paid $17,000 worth of their taxes. A portion of that, 0.5 mils of that, goes to the ambulance, and a portion of that goes to pay the tax collector. So, you know, that's not a really big chunk of change that we're putting in right now. I think we talked last time about being owed somewhere in the area of $40,000 that we expected to collect, and we got 17. Obviously, it's May. It's not June 17th yet. So maybe we'll get closer to that $40,000 number. Maybe there's still some things to be processed. I'm not sure what's going on. It's hard to read these days. Maybe there's some confusion because Luzerne County and several municipalities changed their date from June 17th to August 18th. Maybe people are hurting and they can't pay it right now. I don't know what's going on exactly. So we may want to consider whether we, want to change that date as well. Changing the date does this. So they have until June 17th to pay right now. They're paying the face amount. The preview period passed the rebate period passed a long time ago. So they have until June 17th to pay without penalty. This would be changing that June 17th date to August 18th, potentially. That's what everybody's been doing. And then the penalty kicks in after August 18th. Currently, it kicks in on June 18th. So I don't know. Maybe that's something that we want to reconsider. We talked about it in the past, but let's see what else comes in over the next week.
Yeah, I do think it would be difficult for the tax collector to separate those two, the county and the municipal at different, one at face, one at penalty. So we might want to consider going with the 18. It appears that most are going with that since the county does print the bills.
Yeah,
but we
we're
can
in the
vote on that. It
minority.
would have to be done by resolution, so we can consider that at the meeting. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. We are in the minority right now across the county, basically, as one of the few that didn't change it to this point in time. Luzerne County Council, when they changed theirs, they were not even considering the municipalities at all. And after they changed it, we were in communication with the tax collector's office. They did solicit feedback from us, but they didn't send us anything. Although the tax collectors in the municipalities did receive information on how to split payments, but suffice it to say, it's still, confusing for folks everywhere. It's confusing for the public, it's confusing for the tax collectors, and it's confusing for the municipalities. Anything further on that item? All right. The police Yukon, we had an issue late last year and leading into January where the payments were not being made. We set it up for automatic draft. Leanne prepared all the paperwork. She sent it over to First National Bank back in February. And, essentially it got out of whack on First National side. So as a result of the fact that they never processed the paperwork, we fell behind again. We received some calls. We gave them a check that day square it away. And I was on the phone with them this morning, and they assured me again that the payment is in, the automatic withdrawal is now in place, and that the next payment will come out. And on that date, I will call them again and make sure that it came out. Any questions on that one? All right, Hemlock Street electric bills. We talked about this. We don't know where this is, if it's a couple rogue street lights or what. So Joe, you know, maybe we'll get together, we'll get some poll numbers, and we'll reach out to PP&L and Direct Energy, since it's two separate bills. And if they can't give us any kind of better information, you know, maybe we'll talk about just shutting it off to see what happens.
Yeah, I walked up there several times and have been searching, and I can't figure out what's going on there. And I also emailed the girl who took care of the street lights. She's been very, very helpful. It's much easier to go through her. She hasn't gotten back to me. And as long as we're on electric, there's a tree behind Jakey's bar there that's over the wires. And I just happened to be walking by there the other day. So I called them yesterday, and actually spoke to the person who lives there, and he said that he spoke to a PP&L guy who said they don't cut it down because it's on your land. And I said, well, that's probably just a contractor. He doesn't know what's going on. So I spoke to I called PP&L, and they said they're going to have a forestry guy call me. He'll probably come out and cut that down for us because it is over a wire that would, if it does knock it down, we're going to have, excuse me, we're going to have power out for, you know, all of Luzerne Street and maybe some more. So we'll see what happens with that. I called them yesterday, and it sounded like they'd get back to me by now, and they haven't. So we'll see what happens. Just so you're aware, if anybody's down there cutting trees, that's why.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Anything further on electrical stuff? All right, the street sweeper payment was due May 20th. At last council meeting, we voted to conditionally approve the payment of it while there was some research going on. In the meantime, I reached out to Santander Bank, holds the note on it, and I alerted them to the fact that we were potentially going to seek an extension, since there was lots of extensions being granted for mortgages and such like that. We got the paperwork from it. They made a note on the account that, you know, the payment wasn't necessarily going to come on the 20th. So, you know, nobody came knocking on the door down at the garage to take it back or anything like that. In the interest of time, council discussed the possibility of requesting the extension, and it failed for lack of votes. So at this point in time, I think, you know, based on last month's meeting action, I think, Leanne, we probably just need to cut that check. Not worry about an extension, anything else.
Was that lack of votes or tied votes?
Yeah, we got 3 yes, 1 no, and 3 no responses.
Okay. And when is that due again?
It was due yesterday.
Yesterday, the 20th. Okay.
But they knew that it was, you know, under consideration, so they have a note in the account and stuff. All right. With that said, there was a lot of numbers thrown around and things like that last year. So the plan was to take it out of liquid fuels. So Leanne, keep me honest. Our current liquid fuels balance is around $87,000.
That's correct.
So we're going to take $13,000 out of that right now. So that's, you know, almost 1/7 of our 14–15% of our liquid fuels that we have right now. Out of stormwater, you know, we have the quarterly stormwater bills going through. Our payments are only around $9,000 on our stormwater loans. So, you know, we could manage it coming out of that account. Garbage is the one that has me concerned. We are under a contract with County Waste to pay $18,750 per month through the rest of the year towards the garbage bill. That account balance is around $43,000. Is that correct, Leanne?
No.
65, I believe, Leanne, correct?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay, we got a lot of payments coming in since the bills went out last week, or 65? All right. Okay, so I stand corrected. And we do have a bill that's out there right now. So when we send out a bill that's approximately 1,500 households, 1,400, 1,600, I really want to learn that number. And it's about $100 a pop. Some of the residences might be a little bit higher. So that's about $150,000. $150,000 is what we owe to county waste for the rest of the year for our monthly payments. So that all sounds great, right? We're going to break even. Well, the problem with that is we have a lot of delinquent people as far as our garbage bills go. So I'll come back to that part in new business. But our other obligation that we have that comes out of garbage is 20% of our salaries, because the streets guys clean up the streets, they sweep the streets, they pick up garbage. That's part of their job. Leanne spends a lot of time processing bills and payments. That's part of her job. So for those 3 employees, we have in the budget to do a 20% reimbursement to the general fund for salaries. So I'm very, very concerned that this is probably going to be a recurring theme year over year, that unless people start paying their garbage bills and they pay their stormwater bills and things, they're really putting us in a bind, because this is a big chunk of money to pay for this thing every year. So I hope we have enough money at the end of the year to square up the salaries, and we have enough money at the end of the year to make our payments to county waste. Any questions as far as that goes? All right, so Leanne, we're going to process that payment, as soon as possible, please.
Tomorrow it will be ready for signatures.
Excellent, thank you. All right, the next thing, the old police cruiser has been parked down by the streets garage for some time. I think there was actually a vote by council last year to advertise it on Municibid. There had been a private person who was interested in buying it, but I believe the procedure is that it has to be bid out since it's an equipment, since we're getting rid of equipment. So we talked about the possibility of bidding it again. Now, that car is very similar to the current codes enforcement vehicle. In fact, when I get to the streets report, we actually took the tires off of this old cruiser and put them on the code enforcement vehicle, which was great, because that could have been a several $100s that we would have spent. So we could either sell it. We're not going to get a lot of money for it. It will not pass inspection. Do we want to keep it and continue to cannibalize it for parts, or do we want to put it on Municibid and see what we get? We don't have to accept the offer. We would have to actually vote to ratify the purchase. So it's just something to think about. We could let it sit there and continue to take what we need from it and then cross this bridge, or we could just get rid of it and be done with it and maybe get a couple bucks. Any questions on that one? All right, the TAN loan is halfway paid off. This is a huge obligation for us. I'm going to probably make a motion to include this for next week's bills, that we make another payment on the TAN. Maybe it'll be another $25,000, which will get us $75,000 paid on a $100,000 note.
I think that needs to be at the minimum, Matt, just because the majority of the real estate taxes are in. And that is basically what the TAN is for, till we get real estate taxes in. So we just need to consider what amount because the sooner we get that taken care of, we'll have a better idea where we stand for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I don't personally want to take it beyond the June or July meeting at most. Get it paid in the first half of the year.
I
don't know about saying next week. Yeah, I don't know about saying next week we're going to pay $50,000 on it. Maybe the truth lies somewhere in the middle, but maybe the 25 number is good. Maybe we go a hair higher. But to Lynn's point, we're trying to project out how we're looking for the end of the year in light of all these 2019 bills and some unexpected expenditures here and there.
What is the interest rate on the TAN loan again?
3.
So, well, I'm just that your point at the end there is we're trying to project out. So we've got to, I know you won't, I personally want to get everything with an interest rate paid off as quickly as possible. But at the same time, we don't want to have at the end of the year no money to pay the things we need to pay. So,
The problem with that is though, we can't go for another 10 until that's satisfied. So.
well, right. But the thing is, if, you know, you kind of look at the lesser of two evils, what's our penalty going to be for something here as opposed to paying off that 10 loan a little bit later, so to speak, like October? Are we going to get, if we was to pay something else off? It's just looking forward. So that's all I'm saying is let's just keep that in mind. If we are going to look forward, let's look at, you know, what our payments, just to have that money in the bank in case if you offset it with something that's, say, 10% interest or a 10% penalty, it might be better to just have that money and we save 7% then. So just throwing that out there, looking forward. So yeah, we definitely, that obviously has to be paid off by the end of the year. And hopefully we'll get some, you know, better news with some things going forward here.
Okay, anything else under budget, finance, administration?
No, I think that's everything.
Okay, we'll move on to police and safety. You have
Joe Palco, did you have anything? Otherwise, I just had a couple of things.
No, I don't have nothing. I haven't heard from any of the guys.
Okay. So the Foster 4080 disinfectant, we talked, I don't know if it was last month or the month before, about how we got a paint sprayer and we got a compressor and a paint gun and hoses and everything. And the police have been disinfecting their cruisers and the police station, and they've been nice enough to do the rest of the building as well. So when everybody leaves for the office, you just spray it on. We've been using this Foster 4080 disinfectant, and the fire department is in the process of becoming a distributor for the material. So we did purchase 2 buckets from them at a significantly reduced cost versus what we had paid for the first, well, what the donor had paid for the first bucket. So thanks to the fire department for that. I have that bill, Leanne, I'll get that to you. And we'll want to put that in the bills to pay the fire department for those 2 buckets. We haven't even gone through 1 5-gallon bucket, and we have 2 or potentially 3 sitting in the background. So we're hopeful that we're going to make it very far into the fall with that. And the police department seems to be happy with that solution.
And Matt, this is, and everyone, fire department included, this is all potentially a good potentially reimbursable cost.
Yep.
Through the COVID pandemic declaration. So we just keep that in mind. Again, receipts and anything to do with it, we can get, even if it's $5, we can hopefully get some of it back.
Yeah,
right
so
now, the
that's why we
threshold
had
is-
them write a.
Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Matt.
No, I said that's why we had them write us a bill on this and run it through the borough, because yeah, we feel the same way.
Well, and I believe
if
the fire department, you know, it's not just us. They're perfectly capable with us. If we do this all together, I think we'll be able to get whatever we spend on this, no matter if it's the ambulance, fire department, I guess what I'm saying, police, you know, as a borough, we can kind of put in for that some reimbursement. It's 75% as per usual, but the way this thing's going, they might reimburse 100%. And again, it's all a possibility, but if it does happen, it would initially be 75%. And if it goes the way I think it's going, it may end up being 100% reimbursable if it did go through as a reimbursable expense. So
Just keep in mind, I did attend the webinar on this, and as did Wilson. The threshold is 3,600, and I believe there's 2 different categories for 501c3.
by far, I think at this point it would probably be more, because I spoke to Wilson a while back and he said we've definitely reached that $3,600. Now, the key here is, do we want to, and I'm looking into this, I just looked into it a little bit today, and you know, just forget I said any of this, but because I'm really not supposed to, but the way it works is Luzerne County is going with the state, but we can be our own applicant if we would like to. And I'm kind of leaning towards hopefully getting the information that says we should just do it ourselves, because a lot of things get lost if we're going through not only Luzerne County, but then you have to go through the state. So I'm going to look more into that to see if we just need to apply as an applicant as the Freeland Borough and as an applicant as the Freeland Fire Department and whatever else might need to apply. So the nonprofits, yeah, they would apply by themselves, and I think they probably maybe they're the ones with the 3,600, but I think we can, with wages and things, if we do it right, we can get over the $3,600 limit too. So more information to come on that.
All right, thanks, Joe. The other thing is quads and motorcycles on the streets. A few weekends ago, several people from council were contacted by several citizens, and there were also some posts on social media, including actually a license plate on one of the quads. So council followed up with the police department on that. They identified a house down in the lower end of Washington Street where there was 2 trailers full parked. They made contact with the residents and informed them that, that really doesn't fly within the borough limits. And I believe it's quieted down since. So I actually saw a thing on WYLN just the other day where they had a state trooper who was very clear, because they're having this problem in Hazleton too, that you are just not allowed to do it, period. You can cross a street and you have to do it very slowly, but you cannot be riding in the lanes of travel and popping wheelies and things like that. So, it's very early in the year. Hopefully this doesn't become a thing. We don't want to see anybody get hurt more than anything else.
Okay, is there anything else under police and safety? All right, we'll move on to streets and sanitation.
Okay. So the Johnson Street storm drain, we had entertained 3 bids at the last meeting. And then what we decided to do was have the water authority and Mr. Kavitsky take a look at it. When the grate got pulled off, I think it was worse than everybody expected. And so the advice was to redo it, for lack of a better word. So what that involved was jackhammering out the old concrete, cleaning it all out, running a pump to dry it out, make sure there was no water coming through. Build a form out of wood around the walls. John had a roll of reinforced, it's like heavy gauge chicken wire to strengthen it. And the water authority was doing a project where they were pouring a pad at one of their pump houses. So they had Pocono Transcrete in town. So we were able to work together and get the job done. Use the water authority's equipment. The water authority provided manpower. It was really great the way that everybody worked together so quickly, and I think they did a really good job. It looks great over there. So thank you to the municipal authority. Thank you to Dave. We didn't get the bill yet. All we ended up paying for again was concrete in this instance, but it was certainly less than $2,000. So it was nice to see everybody work together. So thanks for that. With that said, there are a few other storm drains that John has his eye on. Whenever it storms, he goes out for a ride and sees what's what, and he's kind of getting in there with a flashlight and seeing. Maybe the fixes would be as extensive as this one. Maybe they would be something simpler. We will entertain the possibility of doing it in-house or doing it as a joint venture. Not to say that the water authority is on the hook for us going forward. This could have been a one-time thing. But we are trying to keep up with the repairs and make them be minor fixes instead of major repairs in the future. Any questions on that?
I have a question for Mr. Dave Kavitsky. Are you there, Dave?
Yeah, I'm here, Joe.
Okay. Could we get a list of all the drains we have in town? Because
There's a map.
okay, so I need that because beyond the fact that there are repairs needed, there are many that they need to be cleaned. And I see them from walking around and looking in them. There's tons that need to be cleaned. So it'd be easy if I had a little map there. I could check them off and then get them to John, and then they can, save them time. I work for free, so I can get that taken care of and, send it to them, and then they can get on it whenever they can get to it. But if that would help me out a great deal.
Okay, well, Lynn said they have a map. I
Okay.
think.
You're worth every
I
penny,
don't
Joe.
see why.
Correct, Dave? I mean, we do have a map of them,
Excuse me.
last I have.
We put a whole package together
Okay,
back
so
in 2000.
if somebody could tell me,
Hopefully there's.
That's what I mean. Yeah, absolutely. All the projects are their
so
own
where would I
entity.
go
Yeah,
to get these?
I know what you mean.
Where would I go to get this map? That's all I'll need to know, and just somebody message me that at some point, and we'll move on.
Okay.
So if I could find out where to get those, I'll mark them off and get them to John.
Okay. Hometown
All
hero
right.
banners.
Yeah, the banners. So what I was gonna be reporting is that they were mostly up, but John texted me late this afternoon, and they got the rest of them up.
They're
So
all
the
up, yeah.
hometown hero banners are all up now. We did have an issue with the bucket truck sporadically throughout the week, the generator, which the guys were trying to fix in-house as best as they could. So it took a little bit longer. And plus there was 2 guys working on it. In past years, there was 3. Now, as far as the banners go, the word on the street is that you have to order a minimum of 15 of them at a time. And we have 8 requests that have been sitting up there at the borough for some time. So do we want to solicit for more requests from the public? But what you need to bear in mind is that we're really running out of poles. So we've used
And
everything
we
on
also
Center Street.
We need a poll agreement for any additional polls.
Right. Yeah. So the other thing with it is that John said some of them were kind of faded. So I don't know exactly what the deal was. If they were, when they were purchased by the individuals, was it a one-time purchase? And if they're faded to the point where they need to be replaced, would it be another purchase by the individual? Or how would that work? Or are the individuals okay with it?
That's generally the procedure. They usually last approximately 5 years.
Yeah.
And then it's up to them if they choose to, get a new one. They can have it as retired and it's theirs. They purchased it. They own it. But then it's up to them if they would like to replace it.
Sure. Okay. Street sweeping. So we talked about doing it back in April. We actually drew up a schedule and then we decided to hold off on it at the time. Leanne, I believe, has been getting requests from the public. When's the street sweeping going to happen? So, we have the machine. We're making the payment on the machine. I think we should use the machine. We have a June 8th date on there. The only reason it's June 8th instead of June 1st is because do we need to actually vote on this or not? Or can we just, can the streets committee say we're going to do it on June 1st?
Yeah, I don't, it's not a vote. I mean, we own the street sweeper. It's just.
Right. So I'd prefer to do it June 1st, sooner rather than later, since we're behind the 8 ball here. Does anybody have any feedback on that?
No, I agree.
Okay.
I agree with you also.
So,
Yeah, I agree.
all right. So you guys already saw the schedule. It has all the streets on it. We just have to tweak the dates on it a little bit. I'll do that. I'll send that over to Leanne. And then I guess we'll just put it into the community section, right? We don't have to legal advertise or anything. The other thing that we need to think about by next week is, how do we want to handle enforcement of this? Because to get a good clean, you do need to get the cars moved. But in the same breath, everybody's on lockdown. Do we want to give out tickets or do we want to be a little bit lenient with it and just hope that folks will go along with the flow of things? So this is all something to consider for next week. But in the meantime, it'll just be the normal advertising process and we'll work with the police department, the streets department. Vehicle repair. So the bucket truck I already touched on it. The generator, it was a little wonky this week. A couple times it worked like a charm on Tuesday, and then Wednesday it was a little bit sporadic stalling out. So John was looking at the carburetor and a few things, but apparently maybe they fixed it this afternoon since they were able to finish up. But it's just something to watch out for. Excuse me, normal wear and tear type stuff. The yellow Chevy dump trucks, the check engine light is on. So John's probably going to get it hooked up to a sensor in order to see what's going. And if it's something that they're able to fix in-house, or if it's something that has to go to a dealer or anything like that, that really just came up this week. They refilled the acetylene tank for the welder, and Leanne received the bill. It was $278.47, and that gets refilled very sporadically. We'll go like months and months and months. So that's, not unexpected. Pothole patching, the asphalt plant is finally open. I'm sure they're operating under a backlog, but the streets department is making a list of potholes that need to be filled. So if anybody on council hears of any or sees any or anything like that, pass them along while you're out walking or driving or whatever. We do have financial limitations as far as liquid fuels goes in terms of how much we can spend. So, and we're going to do it in batches. Any questions on that one? Okay, the ditch down at the Delacroix Field and Center Street where the bricks are. So that's basically like the 300 block, the 400 block, the 700 block of Center Street. Sorrento's down to the Borough line, and then up there towards the old Borough building. It's difficult to weed whack there, especially with cars. So what they've done in the past is just gone up and sprayed it early on in the year, and that holds it off for the summer. So they're planning to do that unless anybody has any thoughts on that. They said they just drive up, they spray it, and they get going, just so everybody's aware if they see any spraying going on. All right. Collection of bulk items. Several of us have been in touch with several people from County Waste, and they're kind of starting to say that they are resuming bulk pickup and that they have resumed bulk pickup. I know I've seen some accounts that people have said, well, they took my thing, but they didn't take somebody else's thing. So it seems like it's still getting up to speed a little bit. The other question is whether there's stickers required or not, because we certainly don't want people coming into the building for stickers. So I think we want to review the contract, get a straight answer on that once and for all. If they do need stickers, it may be a situation where somebody has to call in and then they get mailed to them.
I'll be honest, it is my understanding they have never required a sticker since they've taken over. And when I put my bulk items out, I do not put a sticker on, and I've never had an issue.
I'm going to just say exactly what Lynn said. They do not require them. I spoke to somebody about that. They said it's not in the contract. However, with that said, I called, as I saw it on the agenda here, Danielle, and I'll talk to her. She'll look at the contract, she'll get back to us, and we'll know 100% what the answer is probably tomorrow afternoon. So let's just, we'll find that out, and then we'll let everybody know.
Yep. All right, but with that said, we would just ask people that if it doesn't get picked up, please don't leave it out there for, I think there was a chair over on Burbick Street that was sitting out for 2 weeks. Bear with everybody, please. Let's all work together to try to keep the town nice, and hopefully we get back to some sense of normal at some point.
Well, and with that said, there's a lot of issues with this garbage, which, I understand things are a little more difficult now, but a few things that, from my understanding, and Lynn, maybe you can, I think, because you were on when you first got this contract with people, with these guys, if you can't fit it in your can, we're not picking it up. That was my understanding. So, is that not true?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay. No, and I don't mean a bulk item. I mean just like if you have 25 bags. And because I understood it as the reason they got the cans was because they didn't want people hurting their backs picking up bags, and then if you go beyond, the can, then you're kind of defeating that whole purpose.
What I've noticed them doing is picking up the bag, putting it in the can once they empty it the first time,
Right.
and then still picking it up that way. So they're not actually throwing it in the truck. They're just putting it in the can once it's empty.
Okay. Well, when I speak to her tomorrow, I'm going to ask her to clarify that, because it's, there's certain parts of town, it's just disgusting, and it's
Well,
a
the
huge
reason,
problem.
yeah, they won't pick it up if it's excessive. If they feel like someone's cleaned out a house,
Hmm.
they will not pick it up. If you,
Okay.
if you do have 30 bags out, they won't. That's excessive. But if you have an extra bag or two, they don't have a problem with that as long as that's not your normal.
Okay. The second thing is the issue of, I know this is a difficult thing, but leaving them, especially downtown, when they leave them at the curbside, people, when we could go out and go to like the other side or something, you can't get out of the passenger side of your car because they don't move them back. So we're going to have to start dealing with kind of enforcing that somehow. I'm just throwing that out there. We don't even need to discuss it at this point, but which leads to the third thing. I spoke to Miss Danielle today about getting the cans from Center Street, getting the garbage truck to go up the alleys and have the people put them in the back of their house so we can get the cans off Center Street. Now, I know, as I told her, in some places it's just not possible because there really is no alley.
They're too narrow,
And
and they're too narrow.
well, that's what she's going to let me know. And I know for a fact that the gentleman told me that they go up one alley in the 400 block. They go up that alley. Now I don't know if that's their side, the truck that picks up from the side, or the one that just kind of picks up from the front. If it's from the front, then that doesn't count because they need to pick up from the side to get the cans. But I'm trying to work with that. At worst, I'm trying to get the people to figure out how to get them off the street, because it's getting to be a serious. It's always been a terrible problem. And if it's possible, I think we're going to need to go to. That's why we talked about the dumpsters thing. Is to a business is just going to have to. We're going to figure something out with the contract with their having dumpsters in the back, because 8 cans in front of the old Bonomo's building is just awful looking. And again, and they have no, they weren't pulling them back until the owner came up and drove up from New Jersey to meet with me, and I told him you need to get these things back because people can't get out of their cars when they were going to pick some food up or delivering. So I'm working on that. It's just want to keep you guys all aware of it, and anything suggestions you have, public, anybody on this at this meeting, let me know what we can do to get them off the street.
Yeah,
And
Joe, I'm also very much in favor of potentially looking into at least just Center Street and maybe even South Street. What options we have, but I mean, I know South isn't too great with other options, but maybe Center Street we can have the trucks go up the alleys. A lot of other municipalities do that. They keep their cans off their main streets. They put them all in the alleys.
yeah, and there, from my walking around, I've seen that there are plenty of places. If they can't do the alley thing, we can at least have them put them alongside, like the corner of Luzerne and Center. Gentleman just moved in. I said, look, for now, maybe we can put your cans on Luzerne Street to be picked up now. I said, but for now, just put them in the front. But could you store them on the side of the house? He just moved in, and I said, just could you get in the habit of storing them behind your house? He said, that would be better for me. I said, great. So we got 2 cans off. The guy next door said the same thing. So hopefully you can get rid of 6, 8 cans right there. It's a start. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind also, like checking out the borough and seeing just how many properties exactly it would be hard or impossible to get the can off of the curb. Just because there are some properties where there's clearly space that is easily accessible, but I'd say probably out of laziness the can is left on the curb. So I'm just curious how many actual properties are impossible or hard for anybody who's disabled or anything like that to actually get the can off of the curb entirely.
Well, yeah, there's a couple blocks, but other than that, I think most of them can get them out of there. But
Yeah.
not to beat a dead horse, but I'll figure it out. I'll wait to hear from her and see if they can go up the alley. That solves a lot of the problem, and then we'll take the rest. We'll take it from there with it.
Maybe Joe, just find out from them what all roads or alleys in the borough they can't go on, just so that we have that for the future. Because if we find out they just can't go on 2 alleys in the borough, that's different from them not being able to go on any. You know what I mean?
Right. And just so everybody knows, I have in the back of my head, it will snow again in Freeland. So
Yes.
that might make it a little difficult at times, but for now, let's see what we can do. All right,
Yeah,
I'm done.
I mean, along those lines, we have a defined business district, right? And that's where we want to maybe have, sometimes there's different regulations and things like that. So maybe, start realistically with that area that Joe's talking about.
Yeah. And also, I'm curious, just as you're bringing it up that it's a business district, what if as the borough, and this is, I'm just spitballing, and this is all hypothetical, but what if as the borough we say that that anyone in the business district does not get borough garbage, and then they're all need to get a dumpster, and that would include the apartment buildings, because that makes sense. Why would the landowner want to pay?
Well,
So maybe that's an option.
first of all, we wouldn't want to lose that money to, because that does help when they do pay. But the way we work that is, we can get dumpsters. They can get dumpsters through us. So they essentially pay us, and then we'll pay county waste. So the thing everything would still be the same, except they'd get a dumpster instead of a can. So
yeah, just to be clear though, there is the option, and I don't know if we can ever take this away or anything like that, but there is the option for any business. I believe it was the other side that recently asked, to basically say, hey, we have our own dumpster and we don't want to pay for garbage collection from the borough. And to my knowledge, we can't deny that. So just throwing that out there.
Well,
also
but we could charge them, because McAdoo tried to do something like this. All right, McAdoo gave everybody the option of, if you want to opt out of the borough's garbage program and you want to get your own, get your own. So all these people said, oh yeah, I'm going to get my own. And then the garbage never got picked up. And it was just sitting there for weeks and weeks and weeks and blowing around.
Yeah, we don't want to go that way. We want to go the way of, my thoughts would be, if you're on Center Street, in the business district, now let's just assume we have a serious business district. You've got to have a dumpster, and you've got to get it through us. Simple as that. And then this way we know their garbage is getting picked up, and they're paying us, and it's, and that payment thing is another issue, should be.
Just to clarify, I was just bringing.
At the end of the day, we have to provide garbage service for the whole town, right? So are 50% of the people going to carry the burden of paying $18,750 a month?
That's
versus
the problem.
everybody?
And all of this is a moot point until the contract is up.
Right. Well, that's not
Out of curiosity,
true.
also, how long?
I
think it's been 2 years already.
She can adjust that, but that's a whole other issue. Right now I'm just looking to get them off, as many off the street as I can, and once we do that, we can figure out the rest. But I think we have a good chance of getting a lot of them off the street. So that I'm good with that. Just so you know, I'm doing it, and any help, any assistance, I will gladly take.
Yeah, Joe, I'm certainly interested. Whatever you find out, please keep me in the loop, and if you need any calls made, please let me know.
All righty. Thanks, Shane.
Yep.
Okay, is that everything for streets? All right.
I believe so.
Fire, light, and water. Does someone have an issue with the ordinance on fire pits?
Oh, yeah. Wait, well, I don't know if I'll have a question. Mr. Joe Stepanski is on, I believe. Saw his name somewhere.
Yes.
All righty. Fire pits, maybe after I'm done saying my piece, you can do the explanation of the distance between a fire pit and a house. But how about a smoker? That would be, could you add on to that? Because I just kind of looked out my backyard and saw the guy a couple houses down has his smoker now moved from the middle of his yard right next to his duplex, which, if he wants to burn his own house down, it's his business, but not the neighbors. So
it's our ordinance.
I'm sorry?
We have the ordinance. It's our ordinance.
Does the ordinance, does it just say, grills and fire pits, or is it any combustible device such as a smoker or grill, etc.?
Lynn,
Yes.
as far as, I don't have the ordinance in front of me the way it's wrote.
Yeah, I don't either.
it's usually 15 feet, I believe, from
Right,
structures,
away from
15
your
to 20
structure,
feet
correct. Yeah,
from any structures.
can't be
I do not
unattended.
believe, I do not believe that there's anything in there about smokers.
I don't
I'd
either.
like to see I would like to see something added in there about smokers, because believe it or not, probably over the last year, we've had about a half a dozen fire calls of reported structure fires, and when we get there, it's a smoker.
Yeah, that's a
Also
good point.
on the wood versus propane, I'd like to see, if they want to use wood, that's fine. It cannot be construction debris. I'd like to see
Right.
the option of charcoal or propane. And again, the problem is our yards are so small, and
Correct.
when they light them under the neighbor's windows and fills the window house up, that becomes a problem for the neighbor. And they're what's the word I'm looking for?
Quality
Living.
of life.
And then we got to go and address the situation. So if we could, maybe if I could sit down with the Fire, Light, and Water Committee and look at that and revisit that ordinance
That's a good
along
idea.
with along with Kenny.
Bring your
And-
recommendations as the fire department. That's a good idea.
Yes,
Certainly interested.
because when that was wrote, it was only kind of, I was kind of only called for about 5 minutes for my input.
Okay.
Yeah,
Really? So I'll
and
get with the Fire,
I
Light,
asked for this. Oh, go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
I'll get with the Fire, Light, and Water Committee, and I'll talk to Kenny, and we'll set something up as things open up here. In the
That's a good
meantime, if
idea.
anybody has any questions, they can contact me at the firehouse, and, you know, I'll be happy to address any questions or try to help them. And if we need to respond to mitigate a situation, we'd be happy to do that also.
Yeah, and I asked for this to be discussed for just what you said. Let's once and for all, let's take a look at it. Let's get everybody on the same page, because the question comes up every so often, and people chime in with varying degrees of expertise, and they talk very definitively, and they might not actually be given accurate information. So then we're playing a telephone game with people.
We also,
Yeah, I'd really like
just so you know, we responded to one. We responded to one, I believe it was either last fall or early spring, that the people were told by an individual from Freeland that they can burn whatever they want in them.
Oh,
And that's
boy.
not,
No.
Yeah.
yes. And that was, honestly, that was a council member. And, you know, after we informed him that he's not allowed to burn construction material, he apologized to us, and, you know, we've never been back there.
Right. We actually don't have burning in the borough other than a regulated fire pit and or a wood
Right.
burning.
A regulated fire pit is one that you buy from the big box store with the cover on it, the spark
Right.
arrestor screen.
Right.
And if
And
people
still we
using,
regulate it to be away from a structure. Right.
yes, correct. So I'll set that up between the Fire, Light, and Water Committee and Kenny, and then I'll bring something back to you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like
Thank
to
you.
definitely look into this and get this settled and make sure that it's not you know, antiquated and stuff too. So
And then,
Okay,
Joe,
the
I
next
think I saw
item.
that you guys are selling raffle tickets, right? And selling
Yes,
raffle tickets right now. Is that what you guys are they
Yep.
sold out? Sorry to put
Nope,
you on the spot.
it's a summer raffle. It's one of the fundraisers that we can't have right now. So the first prize is going to be a Weber Genesis grill cover and propane tank. The second prize is a $200 Visa gift card, and the third prize will be a $100 Visa gift card. We're only selling 300 tickets. The drawing is June 27th, and they're $10. And you can contact any firefighter and get as many tickets as you would like.
Very good.
And then last but not least, guys, if you're going to start street sweeping, can I coordinate with John to do the business district as we have done in the past?
To wash the sidewalks?
I don't.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see a problem there. Does anybody have a problem
Yeah,
with
no,
that?
no, that's great. Yep.
Thanks, chief. Anything else in
You're
the
welcome.
firelight mod? Nothing else? All right, we'll go on to buildings and grounds.
Okay, so back when this Corona stuff started out, we reached out through the Hazleton Chamber of Commerce to several businesses that are chamber members to get quotes on commercial cleaning services. I think they were probably overwhelmed at the time. Whether we heard back from them or not was a mixed bag. But over the last couple of weeks, Leanne has gotten contacted by a few companies, and she's passed it along to me. And I've talked to them. They are, pretty aggressively seeking business to do commercial cleaning, and it could be a one-time deep clean, or it could be on a reoccurring basis. I don't know if council's interested in this, but bear in mind the numbers that I've heard so far, you're talking in the thousands of dollars. And I just don't know if we can really swing it at this point in time. It's up to you guys. I'll pass all the information along as it comes through.
Okay, and the interior door. Is that a?
Yeah, so Leanne, you said
Right.
that's still acting wonky with the lock, right? And this is the second door like this. So we also have an issue with keys, old keys not having been returned and things like that. So I wonder if it's something that the streets department could even handle, but maybe we should just replace all the knobs and just, have good new knobs on it that are keyed the way we want them to be. Or do we want to call the lock company and have them come and look at this and spend a couple $100s, or what do we want to do? Luckily for this door, there's a way to go around. You could go around through the auditorium
Right.
and get in. This is the metal door that blocks you when you're standing at Leanne's window. The last one was, there was no workaround for it. It was to get into Leanne's office, and it had to be, we had to spend money to repair it. So I don't know if it was shoddy workmanship or what. These knobs should have only been done, a year ago? And we're continuing to have these problems.
So just for clarification, they're not usable, or they are from one side not opening when the door is locked from the other side. Just for clarification.
They're usable. I mean,
There's nothing wrong with the doors. It's all within the knob, I guess, Shane. Which I don't know about this one, but the last one, wasn't Lynn the key just spinning round and round and round when you would turn it or something like that?
We
Or-
couldn't turn it
Okay,
at
so
all.
they're not unlocking proper. Okay, gotcha.
But is it the second door, the one closest to you, Leanne, or the first door? Which one?
The first door right after you enter the main doors. It's the first door you enter.
Right, that's what I thought.
I don't normally lock that one. I just keep it closed.
Right.
But it was locked and it was hard to open. My key wouldn't open it. But I did get it open, and Joe had told me to put a piece of tape over the actual latch, which I did not do because I don't have any duct tape, but I just make sure that that door is not locked. That's the only door that's causing the problem.
Right now, but two of the four doors have now been a problem. And we also have that situation where you need one key for this door and another key for that other door, and then a third key for another one. So I just wonder if we should just, look into the possibility of buying the knobs and having them done and having the keys that we need, and people who don't need keys don't have them anymore that way.
Well, let's think about that for next week.
Yeah, I think that's something we should look into, and certainly maybe also follow the other path and see if there's any form of warranty or anything like that with these items from, I guess, the contractor.
Yeah, I mean, do we still have performance bonds, or no, because there was such a delay between the completion of the work and the occupancy permit, right?
Because maybe we can get new locks and have them partially pay for it. You know what I mean? That may be a possibility.
That's if they installed them.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else
That's
under
all I
building
had.
and grounds? Okay, code and zoning, the fee schedule.
Yeah.
Was there a question on
So,
that?
yeah, I don't even know what it is at this point in time.
Are you talking
but,
about like for a building permit for a UCC?
Yeah, well, no, for like everything, right? So like construction permits are one thing, but like dumpster permits, landlord permits, moving permits, all these things. I don't have a full account of what they all are, and it's been suggested that some of them are maybe low. And then like for dumpsters, there's different sizes of dumpsters, so does one fee fit all?
Well, I believe there's a fee schedule.
Mhm.
Leanne, do you have a fee schedule?
I do not. I'm sure there
Okay.
is one around. I could find one.
I believe dumpster permits are $40. And then as far as building permits, it goes by what inspections are required. And then the borough charges an additional 30% on top of that. So right now, Isaac is our building inspector, so it would go by their fees plus 30% on top of it for the borough, and then $4.50 for the state filing fee, because all those have to be filed with the state quarterly. So we could look into all of that.
Is anyone else?
And along those lines is, so just one thing. Do we want to explore anything new? Like, for instance, when it comes to redoing a roof, right? So if you're just doing the shingles and you're not doing anything with the plywood, you don't need a permit at all in Freeland, which was, news to some folks. Should that be the case? Because we had a police incident a few weeks ago at a house on Pine Street where there was just stuff all over the creation, debris going everywhere. And when the police arrived, there was no permits. Nobody could give any answers or anything. So they told them to pack up and leave. And then a week later, a different crew came in and was kind of doing the same thing there. So, I mean, should there be some kind of a nominal fee for replacing the shingles, just so that everybody's on the same page with what's going on? If there's any kind of a mess, and we have to send out our streets guys to clean it up, that we're not eating that cost. And there may be other things, but that's just one example.
Let me chime in on that, because I've just had a heck of a week with permits. And to that roof, I have pictures on my phone because there was a hole in that roof. So obviously the plywood needed to be replaced. So I think it just makes no sense in my mind that you should differ, because if I wake up at 6 a.m. and I tear off the roof and find a hole in the plywood and you replace it and have the shingles on there before you even ride around at 5 o'clock at night to look, or anybody, for instance, the police could ride around and see it, or I could walk around and see it. They just avoided paying for a permit that they should have. If you're working on your house.
The building code states that if it's 10% of the underlayment, the plywood, you don't need a permit. If it's over 10%, you do. And correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Branco, are you on with us still?
Yes.
Doesn't the state building code supersede us on this?
In some degrees. Yeah, there's if you take a look at the UCC, there's certain exemptions that it just doesn't apply to. So probably the best thing to do is let's take a census of what fees we have out there, try to get a comprehensive list. Most of the times that we have this issue surface is normally with the zoning area, where municipalities are undercharging for variance hearings, for special exception hearings. They're not covering their advertising. They're not covering their administrative costs. So, but it sounds like this goes a little bit deeper with you folks. So we just need to take a census of what fees are out there.
Right. We have to pull the current fees.
Yeah.
Let me ask this question first. Let me ask this question, Joe. If the state obviously has their rules, but as a municipality, are we not able to say you need a permit to do work? I don't care what it is. you need a permit to go on that roof. Whether the state wants to tell you it's got to be 10% or 40%, whatever, that's their business. But you need a permit replacing. Stuff out. Well, you're not tearing stuff out if there's brand new wires run all over the place. I have photos of that too. I go down to the next block. There's the new where Donato's office used to be, I guess it would be. They're in there doing work also. Okay, there's no permit in the window. Now they did say in their defense that they called. Now Joey's not here all the time, so he wouldn't have gotten a message. They said they tried to get the permit and they're waiting to hear back. But again, they're doing work and they have no permit to do work, whether it's whether it's the state issue thing because they're tearing walls out and stuff like that. Can we just not say you need a permit to go in this building to do work, and then after that you need another permit from the state? Now then I go down the street a little bit more and I go to the corner of Center and South Street. They're turning that building completely around, no permit. And I told them about it. They go and Kenny comes over and tells them they need a permit. And guess what? I think, Isaac really isn't working now. I think a couple people maybe, but I know that Ken, who handles Freeland, is not working. He told me he's been laid off since March, but he's still trying to keep up because he doesn't want to get overwhelmed when he goes back. But I go down there that day and they said they get the permit. I go down there the next day, which they were supposedly got the permit. And I peek in the window and now they parked their car in the back and they're putting all new, the ceiling was maybe half done when I was there the first time. Now it's all done with their drop ceiling and new electrical. Now I understand if Isaac goes in there and inspects it, they might have to tear things out, which I tried to tell them could happen, but apparently they don't care. But my question is, these people, this is getting out of control. You're just doing whatever you want. And then next thing you know, pop up, new business, nothing was ever looked at. And I've dealt with this for 2 years that like, I'm going to get a permit or they're coming to see me and next thing I know, everything's done and they never paid for a permit. Like I'm told the Pine Street house is supposed to come and get a permit and we'll get them after the fact. Well, I mean, after the fact, why would you bother? The roof is already fixed. And it's not the money thing. It's the thing of, that helps and all, but it's the fact that these people are just coming in here and doing whatever they want. And there's no control and we're just cowering to it. And one of those buildings is going to catch fire and all of Center Street's going to be gone.
Yeah,
So
I'm gonna say that at this point, enough of us have concerns, and either it seems like we have those of us who or have even the slightest information about the thing. We have concerns with how it works right now, or we're just not sure how it works in general. And I have a lot of questions. I have no idea about this the moving permits and things like that. I think council briefly looked into it a couple months ago before us. And there was no knowledge of what happened, what's going on with the moving permits. I think we should just make this another large scale project. Maybe be prepared for the next month's work session and get this solved once and for all next month. Maybe get everything we have together, go over what we have in place now, what we might want to change, and maybe even set a meeting solely for getting this stuff sorted through and figured out. That's the route I'd like to go. I don't know if anybody else is interested in that.
To my question
right.
then, Joe, is can we require a permit to do work?
Depends. And
Correct.
I know it's a very vague response. The rule of thumb, and that's only because I'm giving this opinion only because we were directly involved with the Department of Labor on this issue in McAdoo. The rule of thumb that we were directed to do, every construction project of any nature must be channeled through the BCO, your municipal BCO. The BCO tells us whether the UCC applies or whether it does not. The BCO will tell us if it doesn't apply, the applicant still needs to deal with the municipality for possibly a zoning permit for the use, dimensional issues, et cetera, et cetera. So when it comes to the UCC in relation to our regulatory authority, UCC preempts in many, many circumstances. So it's something, again, we should probably do a census and inventory of what ordinances are out there, what permits are required, and see if that passes muster against the UCC regulations and whether these existing municipal ordinances are preempted and null and void. I just don't know enough about the municipal components that you have there. So I guess the answer is,
Yeah,
it's
we need to get
possible.
organized. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that could be a committee meeting at this point, and then bring it back for next month.
Okay.
Anything else on
We
that?
advertised for code enforcement. We advertised for part-time code enforcement officers a few months ago. We ended up with a total of 2 applications, and we actually had those applications from an advertisement last year. One of the candidates subsequently withdrew from consideration, and there's one remaining. And the interview process is ongoing, and we may have somebody to vote on at next week's meeting. And then the Barry Isaac question is out there, but Joe, maybe it sounds like you got a question, because I got a question about a resident who's seeking to install a pool, and there was some talk that maybe Barry Isaac was considered a non-essential business and they were shut down altogether. It sounds like that's not the case, but they might have scaled back. So how do we navigate this stuff? You know, it's getting hot out. People want pools and things like that.
For a pool, they need a zoning permit as well as a UCC. And as it is,
Right.
They are functioning.
Okay.
Well, partially functioning because, again, Ken's not working. He told me that 2 days ago.
They have someone filling in for him.
Okay. As for the pool, it depends on what type of pool you get and size and all that. We talked about that. You know, is it this tall or that tall? Do you know, I know the zoning, but having a fence around it, I think was the question. So that is determined by the height of the pool.
No, I think I think actually, irrespective of the size, I think there's electrical questions.
Well, yeah,
was
that
how
too.
it was explained to me. So I know Joe Flanagan's trying to follow up with them.
Yeah, but when usually it's you know, if it's 4 feet high, you need this and you don't need that, whatever he told me. So that's his expertise. That's why he has the job. So he's trying to find that out. Yes, he is.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, I guess you know, that says our inspections being done. I don't think Kenny's going in any houses, correct? He's not going in any.
No, this was specific to zoning, actually. Kenny's still doing what he needs to do. Are you talking about Winter for code,
yeah, Kenny,
or are you talking about?
No, Kenny Wenner code. So I didn't even see zoning inspections, but our inspections being done for. He's not going in houses. I don't think so. I mean, I don't.
He might have been in 1 or 2. He's trying to keep it to a minimum, and you know, we are getting the notices that there's some violations identified from the exterior. So,
Yeah,
you know, I'm personally okay with the way that code's operating right now, given the circumstances. But yeah, that was a question in regards to zoning, because a citizen reached out and thought that it was a code issue, but it's not a code issue; it's a zoning issue. And unfortunately, we're at the mercy of the shutdown with regard to Barry Isaac. So Flanagan's on it, I think.
Well,
Okay,
yeah,
anything
it's
else?
okay. Good.
Zoning?
No.
All right, we'll go on to new business. The first thing, the Bureau of Elections. The person I spoke to suggested we need them, but Leanne didn't get any official contact, correct, Leanne?
That's correct.
So I think before we look into that, we'll have to follow up with the judge of elections and see if that's truly necessary. If so, we have to get them immediately because there's training involved if we do not have a judge of elections. So we need to look into that ASAP. I can make some phone calls tomorrow, but as of today, Leanne has not received any calls on that.
Yep. And just a reminder for anybody who's not aware, the polling place was moved from the ambulance building down to MMI. So be aware of that. And I don't know if the deadline passed to submit those mail-in ballots. Everybody received them automatically, whether they requested them or not.
I believe it's the Tuesday before Election Day, which would be the day after Memorial Day. That would be the 26th.
For the application or for the ballot? For the ballot or for the application? Because there's two deadlines we're working against.
For the application, it has to be received by the Tuesday before Election Day. The application and the actual ballot has to be in by Election Day, I believe at 8 p.m. They're giving you till.
Okay.
And the next item, the YMCA flowers, that should be May 22nd tomorrow from 3 until 7. And then Saturday is 10 until they're sold out, or if they're sold out ahead of time. That was coordinated through the police department are okay with that. The EMA are also okay with that. And they're doing it basically as a drive-through. They're doing it with masks on. The pickup will actually be in the back, so they'll be directed down the alley once they pay in front of the building. They'll pay in front. They have the option of saying what type of flowers they would like, and then they drive to, and there will be people there to put them in your car. So hopefully that'll all go smoothly, and we can keep our Y in operation, because I'm sure everyone saw Tamaqua did not survive this pandemic, unfortunately. Oh, and while we're on that topic, in case anyone ever sees our bucket truck in front of it, they did reach out about a window above their door, the second window, the highest window. They had some of the mortar from the bricks leak onto the windows. They have all new windows in the front of the building, so they asked if when the bucket truck is out, if they could just kind of spray that off for them. So I think that's something we could definitely do to keep our Y going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And the last one, Matt, you want to?
Yeah, it's apparently it's EMS Appreciation Week. So thank you to our men and women over at the Freeland Northside Community Ambulance Association. And I was not aware of this in advance, but in the mail this week, I received their annual mailer that they send out seeking donations. So obviously we have a tax in place, a 0.5 mils tax, but that money only goes so far. So please support your local ambulance if you want to keep a local ambulance. And thank you to everybody over there.
Absolutely. Anybody else have any new business or correspondence?
Yeah, I talked to Attorney Barranco about a business license for people, obviously opening a business in town. I don't know how we need to go about this, but Joe was great. He emailed him and was back to me the next day. Is there what should we do about getting something written up so people they have to have a business license in town? Joe, do you want to kind of elaborate on that? Do we need to put it to a vote here, or can you just bring something to the next meeting that would be reviewable for us so we can possibly put it to a vote? How would you like to go about that?
How about if I do you mind if I share the memo I prepared for you on your questions on that issue? I'll just summarize for council, circulate that tomorrow. They can review it over the weekend, and then we could discuss this or put something together for next week. Whatever format we do, it has to be by ordinance. We have to do it by ordinance, so it wouldn't be ready till June or July.
Okay, well, yeah, we need it sooner than later because I'm sorry, this is just, it shouldn't have been this long. It's getting out of control. And again, I put in, the question was to develop have a historic district from Chestnut Street on down both sides of Center Street to MMI basically the Freeland Foster line, in order to get some control over this business district, because it's just out of control, and it's only going to get worse. And this will be a way to do it, hopefully, to just keep people in line with certain things, even if it's the garbage can thing. But it's just, you know, if it fails, it fails. I tried, but we're not going to go anywhere but down if we don't do something about this stuff now. And I want to kind of nip this in the bud. So they're the two major things. The other things would be kind of zoning issues that we talked about, Joe, for you know, stick-built homes and modulars and trailers. We'd probably have to, and subdividing things from, you know, if it's an R2, obviously. Let me ask you this while we're here, so everybody's you know, aware of it. If I have a duplex in an R2, I can't turn it into 4 apartments, correct? Because it's only R1, R2, correct?
That would be, not having the zoning ordinance in front of me, that would be accurate. The only way to change the use would be to go before the zoning board for a variance.
Okay,
or
so we
special
can,
exception.
okay, excellent. So we can resolve some of those issues of putting in another Freeland Village somewhere. I know we don't have the land to do that, but I think you guys know what I'm getting at. You know, you put in 6 one-bedroom apartments somewhere, it's just going to be a nightmare. So we've got to stop this. One of the reasons, you know, personal feelings, living here, family, friends, and not wanting to see this town get any worse than it already has, is the gentleman from New Jersey who came in and seems like a wonderful guy who's going to try and do wonderful things here, specifically said to me, he said, you should see where I live. They build 16-unit apartment buildings and don't put parking for anything anywhere, and they just don't care. And we've got to make sure that doesn't happen here, where they just divide things up, and next thing you know, there's no place to park in front of the other side because there's 14 apartments, 1-bedroom apartments somewhere, and they're parking their cars wherever they want to. So, you know, I'm pretty adamant about this, so we need to do something, and we need to do it fast, because the longer, you know, it's going to take 2 months. The longer we wait, the more likely we're never going to be able to dig ourselves out of this mess that we're kind of in already. So
I second everything Joe said.
thank you, Shane. Joe, if you don't mind, just feel free to send that out, and then we can talk about it and get it done as, hopefully we can get people on board and get it done as soon as possible. Anybody have anything
Very
to
good.
add to that, please do.
Just that our zoning ordinance and our saldo are relatively new ordinances.
And our what? Our zoning and,
Saldo.
okay,
subdivision,
so,
land development.
right, so, but, you know, relatively new might be relatively wrong. So that
Well,
you know, that bothers me nothing. I'm sorry, I know I'm not sounding nice about this, but after walking downtown, I am PO'd about all this nonsense going on, and we need to just, we're from Freeland, and we need to fix this now. So whatever it takes, all we can do is try. If it doesn't work, then we can say, look, as a council, we tried. You know, that's all we can say.
Yeah, I have to say there's a lot of single family homes that are being divided into halves and triples, and I'm seeing second floor apartments being added onto homes that were double homes previously. So now they have 3 units in them, and we have a few single room houses that are going to be put up in the style of the cottage. So this is something I'd like to look into.
Yeah, and you know, hey, if they did that, Shane, let us know. They might be in the R2 zone and turned it into an R3, and we get to go in there and say, guess what? Can't do that. So, but if it's in an R3, 4, I mean, technically speaking, I know I can say things because I'm not an attorney and not get in trouble. But if they turn it into a 3-4 and it's in that zoning area, then that's fine. But I think maybe we need to consider changing that zoning area back down to an R2. So it's just all things we need to look into, because it's
legally within the borough limits, though, we have to allow for every type of establishment.
Well, that's true, but it doesn't mean we have to allow for every type of establishment in a 10-block radius. So, it's, you know, whatever the rules say, we want to make it as minimal as possible, because it's just, I mean, we've got land up there by the park that somebody purchased. I don't know. Now, I think that's actually zoned, might even be zoned manufacturing or something like that. So we're probably lucky about that. But there's another place down on Schwobe is 10 acres with the house. You know, you got to be careful. I mean, who knows, 10 acres, that's enough room to put a bunch of houses that suddenly are all Section 8. And I know people need Section 8, but oftentimes that brings a lot more problems. So we got to shoot for the stars here. And if we get close, that's great. If we reach where we want to go, then that's even better. We can't,
All right,
you know.
well, we'll start with the memo. You can circulate that and then we'll go from there. Sounds good. Anything else
Okay.
under new business?
I'm just curious, are we, and Joey, this is probably for you more so, but are we going to be doing anything for Memorial Day for a parade? I see that a couple other municipalities and fire departments are going to be participating in them, and I'd hate to see us lose that. You know, that's a tradition.
Lynn, no, I believe everything was canceled for Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, the Legion had their thing in saying that everything was canceled.
That is
Okay.
correct. So
Okay.
if things are postponed, or if there's a future date, we'll be happy to participate. But again, you know, out of all due respect to the veterans, I understand where some people's concerns are, but I think for the safety of the citizens and the state that we're in, it's best that we adhere to the cancellations.
Agreed. And it's actually not, parades are not allowable in the red district.
In the red districts, that's correct.
Mhm. Anything else under new business? Correspondence? Okay, then we'll move on to public input. Anybody have anything? Nothing? Okay, motion to adjourn the work session?
I'll make that motion.
Matt will make that motion.
I'll
Shane
second.
made it. Matt will second.
Okay,
Either way.
all in favor, aye?
I
Aye.
Opposed? All right, work session's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good
Take
night.
care, folks.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Matt, is this going to